Today, we're diving into a really intense ethical debate. It was all kicked off by a single, pretty shocking idea: post-birth abortion. We're going to unpack this whole thing using Hélio Angotti Neto's book, Morte da Medicina, which translates to The Death of Medicine. It's his direct response to an academic paper that really sent ripples through the medical world.
Right off the bat, this quote from the book just cuts straight to the core of the issue. Neto isn't just disagreeing with an idea, he's rejecting the very words used to describe it. This one phrase really sets the stage for a massive clash over the meaning and value of human life.
So let's get to know the people involved here. Our guide is Hélio Angotti Neto. He's a physician and a professor. And what pushed him to write an entire book was an article he read called After-Birth Abortion: Why Should the Baby Live?, written by two academics, Alberto Giubilini and Francesca Minerva.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the article that started this whole firestorm. Then, we'll break down what the post-birth abortion argument actually is. After that, we'll get into the main event, Neto's critique of their logic. And finally, we'll zoom out and see what this all means for the bigger picture, for the role of medicine in all of our lives.
So what on earth did this article say that caused such a massive reaction? Let's get right into the source of this whole debate.
Neto says his book literally started from a place of astonishment and terror. I mean, imagine being a doctor, you pick up a respected medical ethics journal, and you read an argument that, in your eyes, is defending infanticide. You can see why he felt he had to respond.
Okay, so before we can really understand the criticism, we have to understand the original argument itself. So let's try to lay out the core ideas from that Giubilini and Minerva paper, just as Neto presents them in his book.
The argument really boils down to three main points. First, they claim that fetuses and newborns don't have the moral status of what they call actual persons. Second, they say the fact that they are potential persons, that they could become one, doesn't really matter from a moral standpoint. And third, they argue that adoption isn't a perfect solution because it might not be in the best interest of the actual persons involved, like the parents. Now, this next part is absolutely critical to their whole argument. It all hinges on how they define the word person. For them, a person isn't just a biological human being. It's someone who is capable of valuing their own existence. And by that definition, they argue that since a newborn can't do that yet, it doesn't qualify as a person with a right to life. And if you follow that logic, you arrive here at their final explosive conclusion. They basically say that if an abortion is ethically okay for any reason, whether it's for the health of the mother or for social or economic reasons, then killing a newborn for the very same reason should also be ethically permissible. That's what they mean by post-birth abortion. Okay, so now that we have a clear picture of the argument they're making, let's switch gears and dive into the heart of Neto's book, his point-by-point takedown of their reasoning.
Neto's first line of attack is all about language. He argues that phrases like post-birth abortion are just euphemisms. They're intentionally chosen to sound softer and more clinical than the reality. He's essentially saying, let's call a spade a spade. So for him, post-birth abortion is infanticide. Terminating a life is murder. He wants to strip away the academic jargon and look at what's actually being proposed.
You know, this whole battle over words is really just the surface of a much deeper, more fundamental disagreement. It all comes down to this one central question that drives this entire conflict. What actually makes a human being a person? And here you can see the two worldviews just colliding. The article proposes this functional definition. You become a person when you can do certain things, like have self-awareness or goals. But Neto fires back with a totally different view. For him, personhood isn't something you earn or develop. It's intrinsic. If you are a living member of the human species, you are a person. Period. Full stop. From the moment of conception.
Neto also zeroes in on what he calls a huge logical contradiction. He points out that the article is very selective about when potential matters. They say a newborn's potential to become a self-aware adult is morally irrelevant. But at the same time, they argue that the potential for future suffering or hardship for the family is a perfectly valid reason to end the newborn's life. He sees this as them trying to have their cake and eat it too.
So, from dissecting this one article, Neto zooms way out. He starts to talk about what he sees as a profound threat to the entire medical profession. For him, this isn't just some philosophical game. This is about the soul of medicine itself.
What this all leads to, in his view, is a clash between two fundamentally different visions of what medicine is even for. On one side, you have the classic Hippocratic ideal.
A doctor's job is to preserve life because life itself has value. But on the other side is a vision of medicine as a tool, something that can be used to serve other goals, where a life's value is judged based on its usefulness, and the patient might not even be the top priority.
And this is where Neto's warning becomes incredibly stark. He argues that if medicine abandons that core mission to preserve life, the role of the doctor is twisted into something terrifying. They stop being a healer, and in his words, they can become the perfect executioner.
So we're left with the question that this whole debate really hinges on. What is the ultimate purpose of medicine? Is its job to preserve life, no matter what? Or is its purpose to maximize well-being and reduce suffering, even if that means making decisions about which lives are worth continuing? The answer to that question really defines more than just a profession. It defines the kind of society we want to be.